Every piece of knitting tells a story. Hi, I'm Liz Towers, lifelong knitter, certified knitting teacher, and stuff like that gives me credibility, right? Anyway, stick with me because I'm going to introduce a wonderful designer to you. I'm going to teach you a more comfortable way to do the long tail cast on, a way that your thumb doesn't get as tired. I'm going to tell the story of this shawl, and I'm going to host a yarn giveaway, which will be fun. So the story of this shawl. My husband and I were staying at the lake home of a very kind relative, and we were shopping for a house. We were between homes. I was preparing to teach a class on slipped stitches at a fiber festival in Minnesota, and in rolls this polar vortex, 30 below. It just got a grip on the whole state, and it lasted day after day. Activity on the lake stopped. Fishermen stopped kibitzing between fish houses, and snowmobilers left the lake. The skaters were gone. It was as still as death out on the lake, except for the wind that was just blowing the surface snow like everything. And just within reach of the binoculars, but out of walking reach, was an ice house. And there was a pickup truck parked in front of it. So I was so concerned that there might be a frozen fisherman in there. I would knit furiously on the shawl, sit on the couch and knit. Then I would get up, pick up the binoculars, go up to the windows and look. Has anything moved? Is there any sign of life? And my husband and I were so concerned that finally we did something. I'll tell you the rest of the story in a little while. But for now, I'm going to tell you about this shawl. I needed a sample, a few nice samples for this class that I was teaching, so people would see what slip stitches looked like and why they would want to do them. And so I began this very popular shift recipe on Ravelry that Andrea Mowry came up with. It's a beautiful thing. It's been very, very popular. And I started it. You start it up here, up in this corner. And I got to here and I thought, oh, I need a change. Why don't I make this, instead of just going by her pattern, why don't I change it and make it a sampler of slipped stitches? And that way, in one piece, people can see a lot of different uses for the slipped stitch. So that's what I did. And I'm going to show you some of these techniques. This is a sort of a wave type stitch. It's more visible farther down here. You can see it well here because this is, see how there are a combination of knitted stitches here and then pieces of yarn just laying over the surface of the knitting, that if you wished you could actually stick your finger in there. So it's very three-dimensional and interesting. I like that very much. Then look at this. This bit is like a quilted kind of a slip stitch. This yarn, this effect was achieved using both a quilted type stitch, which is a slip stitch, and a crazy Zauberball, which is such interesting yarn, and it has very long color changes. Look, you can even get a lace effect. See this? See this lace effect? Isn't that beautiful? With slip stitches, that's achieved with slip stitches. Here are slip stitches doing cables, slip stitch cables. Isn't that something? How nice that looks. I just love that. And then, of course, the slip stitch that most people think of when they think of slip stitches, which is mosaic. Neat, huh? I really like mosaic. It's a way of achieving really beautiful color work without having to do stranded knitting. Don't get me wrong. I love stranded knitting. I love knitting in the Scandinavian tradition. But this is more accessible perhaps for beginners, for a first time color work project. So for the slip stitches, I would suggest to you The Art of Slip Stitch Knitting by Faina Goberstein and Simona Merchant-Dest. I hope I've pronounced those names correctly. If I haven't, please teach me how, because sometimes I say things wrong. I want to tell you about the yarns used. The yarns that you select for a project are so important to the success of the project. And if you use gorgeous, expensive yarns, anything you knit is going to look beautiful. However, the cost of yarns can sometimes be prohibitive. Have you ever experienced that? You see a gorgeous project, you'd love to knit it, but you can't pay, $150 to knit a shawl. So let me tell you some of the yarns that I used in this. I already told you about this crazy Zauberball. That's what this is. This segment right here. However, it was the tail end. It was what was left over from another project. And so if I have a really beautiful, wonderful yarn, don't waste an inch of it. Save it, because you can use it in another project and it will give it that zip that you need. In addition, I had some lovely stuff I'd gotten on sale because I think it was a dyeing experiment. It's Madeline Tosh Merino Light, and that is what this gold section is. All these gold bits, they are Madeline Tosh Merino Light. But I got it on sale because the colorway says one of a kind. So while a colorway of one of a kind may not be that helpful for other people to find that exact color to achieve the exact result you got in the sample you knit, it is more helpful on their knitting budgets. The other, this beautiful aqua yarn, I love that. This yarn, I'm going to tell you about it. It was a present. It was a present from one of my 3 brothers and his wife. It says, Whimsical colors, hand dyed on San Juan Island. Silky merino light. The colorway is blue spruce. Merino and silk. Look at that. I'll show you that. And it was a gift. And I only used part of the ball, part of it's left. So look, you can combine workhorse yarns with beautiful, wonderful yarns, and it can help your knitting budget, and you still get a result that is exquisite. I'm going to tell you now about this designer, and I'm really excited about her. Her name is Jennifer Berg. She does go by Jennifer Berg on Ravelry. We will scroll all her contact information below so that you can look her up on your own. You're going to want to. it seems that she exploded on the fiber scene with her design style fully formed. Honestly, her work is beautiful. She has the Native Knits shop on Etsy. She goes by Native Knitter on Instagram. That's where I discovered her. I'm going to read a quote by Jennifer Berg in which she describes herself. My name is Jennifer Berg. Most people know me as Native Knitter. I'm Navajo and living in Albuquerque, New Mexico. I'm a knitwear designer and have been working so hard this past year to bring you Native-inspired knitwear. Native Americans are underrepresented in this industry, and I want to make a way for other fiber artists to feel a part of the fiber community. Well said, Jennifer, and congratulations on your designs. When I contacted Jennifer, her answer was prompt and gracious, and she informed me that she is working really hard developing new projects which will be released in the fall. And so, Jennifer, I'm going to keep an eye on you because I don't want to miss out on what you're doing. Your work is beautiful. Look at this cowl. This is called the Sunset Mesa Cowl. Every one of her designs is appealing, but honestly, I confess this Sunset Mesa Cowl is my favorite. Look at the colors and the beautiful yarns that she used. Look how she has so artfully combined the colors with the geometric design. Jennifer's designs are not only artistically done, but the photography is incredible. It's just beautiful. It's worth looking at, even if you're not a knitter. So please check Jennifer Berg out. Jennifer, thank you so much. I just celebrate you. You are gifted. Speaking of designers, well, I have a few designs up on Ravelry. Yes, I have some designs up on Ravelry.com. Not very many, and they've been there for quite a while because I have had some obstacles to overcome between when I last posted designs and when I'm posting my next ones. But please do check me out on Ravelry.com. I am Goody Two Sticks on Ravelry.com. I'm Goody Two Sticks on Instagram. I'm Goody Two Sticks Knits here on YouTube. And knitting has provided a way for me to give to the fiber community. Most of my designs are free. Some of them are cheap, but I have had the privilege of getting to give away or sell over 26,000 downloads, and that makes me happy. So I also want to tell you that every place I am on YouTube or Instagram or Ravelry is family friendly. I don't want you to feel worried about what you're going to encounter if you have a 5-year-old perched on your lap, right? And so if you are going to comment, please keep that in mind when you do, because inappropriate comments will be deleted. Thanks for respecting that. I appreciate it. I'm currently doing a bit of teaching at the Marine Mills Folk School in Marine on St. Croix, Minnesota. That folk school is a treasure. It is thriving, and we are being discovered by the Twin Cities, Minneapolis and St. Paul. And it's quickly becoming a destination because people can learn everything from knitting to bookbinding to knoll binding to cooking. And it's really wonderful. But one of the things I'm most excited about there is I host a weekly knit night. And these knitters they are smart. They are creative. They are funny. They are resourceful. I'm crazy about them. And, oh, I better stop here because I have to get their permission to talk about them, right? Yes, well, we'll take care of that. But check out marinemillsfolkschool.org. You are going to be delighted and amazed by what you see there. And plan on making the drive because these classes are so good. They only get excellent teachers. So check them out. That fisherman whose pickup was parked in front of that fish house for 3 days, my husband and I were worried that somebody might be frozen inside that fish house. We called the sheriff and some deputies drove straight over. I know because I watched them through the binoculars. And the fish house, thankfully, was empty. The owner had gotten a ride home with some friends when he had left 3 days earlier. But he came out in this frigid, desperately cold weather. And it took he and like 4 other people hours to get that truck started. Nevertheless, the important thing is that everybody was safe and okay. And that's how that turned out. Oh, moving along to the giveaway. Ta-da, ta-da! Here's some beautiful aqua speckled yarn. Like that? Kind of a robin's egg blue in a way. Very nice to pet. Very soft. And there's this skein, and then there's another skein. Look at this one. I know, it looks just kind of like okay, that's a nice black and gray toned bit of yarn. Look at this. Surprise! It's got this coordinating robin's egg aqua to the other skein. I'm going to go like this. You won't find yarn like this, exactly like this, anyplace else. And the way I know that is because I dyed it. Me, myself. See, isn't it pretty? It goes from this deep gray to this robin's egg blue, then a wee bit of white, and back to the dark. And because the same dyes were used, these were dyed at the same time, they coordinate so beautifully. So the giveaway is both of these 100-gram skeins. Each skein has 438 yards. It is a 2-ply fingering weight, 50% merino, 25% alpaca, 25% nylon. The winner will be randomly selected, and there are 2 ways that you can enter. Here on my YouTube channel, you can enter by subscribing to my YouTube channel, and that way you will not only have a chance to win these skeins, but you will also be notified when I put out my next video. Or you can enter by commenting below, or you can have 2 entries if you both subscribe and comment. So it's up to you. Hey knitters, it's Liz Towers here. to show you that more comfortable way of doing the long tail cast on that I promised you. By the way, when you're trying to decide how much tail to leave for the cast on, allow about 1 inch per stitch. If you're using a very bulky yarn, allow more. If you're using a very fine yarn, you can get by with less. But I usually estimate about 1 inch per stitch, and that usually works out happily. So I like this method of cast on because it not only tires my hands out less, especially this thumb, but I achieve a more even tension on the bottom of the cast on. So let me show this to you. First of all, start with a slip knot. Place a slip knot on your needle. Then, holding the tail in the left hand and the working yarn in the right hand. The working yarn, by the way, is always the yarn that goes to the ball. Okay? Bring the tail yarn counterclockwise around the thumb, forming a loop. Bring the needle tip under and into that loop. With the right hand, bring the yarn counterclockwise behind the needle tip and back to the front. With the left hand, place the thumb loop over the needle tip without twisting it. Draw the tail yarn until you've got a tidily formed stitch. Don't do it too tightly, because too tight of a cast on is nothing but mischief. It always brings trouble. Okay, let's go through that again. The tail yarn comes counterclockwise around the thumb, forming a loop. The needle tip goes under and into that loop. With the right hand, bring the yarn counterclockwise behind the needle tip and back to the front. Place the thumb loop over the needle tip without twisting it and draw it into shape by pulling on the tail yarn. And allow about 1/4 of an inch between stitches. Just be gentle with this stage, okay? Let's do that again. Tail counterclockwise around the thumb, under and into the loop with the needle tip, behind and around with the working yarn. Loop goes over the needle tip, no twisting allowed, and draw the stitch into shape. One more time. Okay. You do realize, I hope, that when you are doing the long tail cast on, you are actually achieving 2 steps at once. You're getting your cast on accomplished, but also your first row of knitting. Let me demonstrate that a little more clearly. I have tied 2 contrasting colors of yarn together like this. You would not have this at the start of your work. That's a mess, right? But I'm just doing this to help you see more clearly what you're achieving with this cast on. Gently, gently. Do you see, it is the tail yarn that forms this cable on the bottom. And it is the working yarn that forms the stitches. And so you have achieved both a cast on and your first working row at the same time. Because of that, many people then decide that if you're working stockinette, this is going to be your right side. And if you're working garter, this is going to be your right side. See how these purl bumps show up here? So this fits right in with garter stitch. Well, maybe I shouldn't say many people. I should say I. That's what I do. But it seems to work really well, and it keeps your work so kind of professional and neat looking. Also, let me show you something that I used to do. I'm going to bring this other needle over here that I was using. I used to, when I wanted to achieve a nice loose cast on, I would cast on over 2 needles because somebody told me, oh, that's a good way to keep your cast on from being too tight. Okay, so I'll do that. Let's do one more, and then I'll show you what we're actually accomplishing. So, see, this down here, the yellow part is just the same. And what has happened is the stitch part, not the cable part, where the stretch has to happen, is the loose part. So, now, if you're using a very nice wool that has lots of memory, you're going to be just fine because this probably won't look sloppy. But if you're using something with no memory, like cotton or silk, or something with way less memory, like alpaca, boy, that first row is just going to look sloppy, and it's just going to be disappointingly messy right at the nice starting edge. So, you know, I would suggest going back to just using one needle, spacing it. I use my index finger to just space that a little bit, not that let them get too tight, and just being gentle and loose, kind of wiggling it into shape. Take your time with the cast on. It is the foundation for your knitted piece, and if you're happy with it, it's going to help a lot. There you go. Thanks for joining me today. I'm so eager to get to know you better, eager to introduce you to more designers and to some of the people that I love the best. And here's a little heart health tip before I sign off. Don't let your heart get bitter. Have a beautiful day. Happy day. Goodbye.